How's it going, everybody? This is Cameron White with White Light Astrology, giving you guys your May 2019 horoscope for Capricorn, Sun, and Rising. Thank you guys so much for being here and liking and sharing and commenting and subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys. This month, there's going to be a lot of difficulty and a lot of facing challenges, but equally there's going to be a lot of positive energy that's going to help us overcome a lot of the obstacles that we're going to be facing. This month is a big turning point, especially if you're going to be looking at the eclipse cycle going from January of 2019 into the summer of 2019. We're having the eclipses in Cancer and Capricorn. This is the midpoint this month of in between those, so you're going to see a lot of turning points in your narrative and in your story for this year, and I really think that this month is going to be that point where you start to make those decisions and start to take things a different direction. So starting off May, on April 31st, May 1st, in between them, we're going to have Saturn station retrograde. And this is really important because Saturn is in Capricorn. It is in your sign. It's in your first house. And Saturn is the planet about, of course, limitations, discipline, restriction, boundaries, walls, barriers. It can be harsh and it can be cold and brutal. And as Saturn has been direct for the past couple of months now in your first house, it's shown you obstacles and challenges that you've needed to overcome, and it's also shown you bigger responsibilities that you need to take on yourself. Now, with Saturn stationing retrograde as it moves backwards, this is going to be the time where you handle and address these complications with these, struggles and these barriers and these walls that you can have with, yourself or with your health and your body or your mind or anything just doing with your personality in general. And as Saturn retrogrades, this is going to be about taking on more personal responsibility with yourself and taking on the discipline that it takes to, be a master of yourself. And I think that's what a lot of the Saturn over your ascendant, over your first house is going to look like for you for not only last year, this year, and a little bit into next year. The next thing that we've got going on in May is on May 4th, we're having the new moon in Taurus. And this is super positive for you guys because this is happening in your fifth house. The fifth house is all about love and romance and creativity and hobbies. What you pursue has a lot to do with children and sex and all of the things that you love. Now, the new moons are when you have both of the luminaries, the things that light things up that we can see. A new moon is when you have both of those together, and it's about cleansing out, clearing out the energy. You have both of the luminaries in the same sign, focusing on one thing, so to say. Now, with this new moon in Taurus, the Taurus is all about being grounded and having stability, having growth, and having abundance. And with this happening in your fifth house, this is kind of resetting the energy and kind of clearing out the way with where do you want to ground yourself and what do you want to grow into in terms of what your hobbies are, what you're kind of actively creating or pursuing. Maybe you have children. This is going to be a time to focus on them. Maybe you're, want to be more romantic or you're looking to date. Like this new moon in Taurus is going to be a really good time to settle down and to really reflect on what do you value and what do you want? What do you want to grow? What do you want to own? What do you want to have? And what do you want to express? A couple days later, after this new moon in Taurus on May 6th, we're actually going to have Mercury go into Taurus as well. And so Mercury's leaving your fourth house of Aries, where it was focused on your living situation. Mercury's now going to enter your fifth house of love, romance, children. Mercury, of course, is the planet of communication, mindset, thinking, logic, measuring, things like that. And as Mercury goes into Taurus, Mercury is wanting to stay fixated on things growing. That's kind of like what Taurus energy is, being abundant, being luxurious, and having value. And as Mercury goes through Taurus, where this is the way that he's operating, this is, of course, going into your fifth house of, again, love, romance, children, sex, and all of the fun stuff in life. And so as Mercury goes through there, this is just going to be a time to really get your mental energy clear with the things that you do value and the things that you do want, and maybe actively pursue those. First, of course, with with the mindset of wanting to pursue those. And what's important about this as well is 2 days later on May 8th, we're going to have Mercury conjoin Uranus in your fifth house. So, of course, Uranus is in your fifth house now of love, romance, sex, children. Uranus is helping you liberate yourself here and find a new ground, find something that you value. It's going to be changing you up for the next 7 years. And as Mercury conjoins Uranus, this is Mercury spreading the message of Uranus of, liberate yourself from old past ways that are stagnant and that aren't growing anymore. You need fertile soil in order to grow beautiful flowers. And right now, with Mercury conjoining Uranus, this is kind of like, go to the store and buy the soil and plant it. You don't have to keep using the same old dirt every single time, especially if it's not growing anything. Mercury conjoining Uranus in your 5th house is, breakthrough an idea. It's Uranus, it's an unexpected planet. The breakthroughs and breakdowns. That's what I was trying to say. So this is definitely going to be kind of a wild time, but this is the 5th house. This is a fun place. So just expect the unexpected in this area. And then, of course, a couple days later on May 15th, we're actually going to have Venus go into Taurus as well. And this is even more positive because now we have the planet of Venus, the planet of money, of value, of connection, of relationships. She wants to bring things in and bring things together. She wants to indulge in all the things that she wants to, and she likes a lot of things. And when she's in the sign of Taurus, she can operate at the way that she wants to because it's her home sign. She can ground herself in the value that she exuberates and that she can attract the things that she wants, that she knows that's going to give her the security that she's looking for. And with this going into your 5th house, this is like better experiences with love, with romance, with children, with, being able to be more expressive of your creativities. The 5th house has to do with music and art and things like that. So if you're a musician, an artist, a parent, whatever, this is definitely going to be a really positive time to reflect on this part of you. It's an extension of yourself, basically, so to say. And then the next day, on May 16th, we're going to have Mars enter Cancer. And this is important because this is entering your 7th house of relationships. Now, Mars is all about our action and our energy and our drive, what we're not necessarily putting our attention to, like on the Mercury level, but, where our energy is kind of, feeding into. Mars has a lot to do with our anger and our frustrations. He inflammates and he severs and he cuts. Mars is in fall in the sign of Cancer, meaning he doesn't operate the best right there. Mars usually wants to attack and address, and Cancer is about nurturing and protecting and taking care of and trusting and feeling. And so when you have Mars in its fall, sign of fall, it doesn't really work all that well there. In your 7th house of relationships, I would definitely look at, for one, you might have a little bit more issues within relationships. The 7th house is not only like relationships, like the romance or like the marriage part of relationships, but one-on-one relationships in themselves and in individual circumstances. With Mars going through here, you may experience some issues and some frustrations with relationships, but my biggest advice during this time is while Mars is in Cancer, take action on the things that you need to protect and the things that you need to nurture yourself on, because Mars in Cancer is going to be sensitive during this time. And when you have Mars going through your 7th house, you may feel a little bit sensitive to how people respond or react to you. So don't get too caught up and don't be too super defensive, but this is going to be a time to just make sure that you're protected and to make sure that you're focused on what your needs are, or what, in this case, with this being the 7th house, it could be someone else's needs. Also, on May 16th, we're having Venus conjoin Uranus. So again, with Venus being in the sign of Taurus, right next to Uranus, this is liberating and breakthrough energy with how you feel on a more romantic level. And this sounds counterintuitive because I said with Mars in Cancer, it's kind of causing problems in relationships and stuff like that. It could cause some irritations. Venus in Taurus is more of counteracting that with how can I be creative and how can I change what I value and how can I, liberate what I value that's something more ethical, something that's more natural for me. And it may just be maybe a little bit hard to kind of bring that or introduce that into the relationship firsthand. So while Venus is on top of Uranus, this is going to be the time to really reflect on what can you change and what can you do. And then on May 21st, we're going to have the Sun enter Gemini as well as Mercury enter Gemini. And Mercury is going to go Kazemi, where basically it gets purified by the sun. It gets completely cleaned out and it's fresh. It works a lot better. This is happening in your 6th house of your work, of your routine, of your health, your day-to-day activities, what you're eating. The 6th house is a really important place, of course, because it rules all of those things. However, when you have the sun, which is a light, it really does light up everything, going into this area, as well as Mercury, the planet of communication, of intellect and logic and speaking and your mindset, going into its home sign of Gemini. That's Mercury's favorite place to be, into your 6th house. This is a lot of understanding and clarity with what you need to do with your day-to-day habits, what you need to change in your routine, or how you can be more effective in your routine. This is a big call to, what are you giving out to the world and what is your service that you're providing? This is also going to be a big time to focus on your health and having more awareness and having more understanding of where your health is at, again, where your day-to-day activities are, where your habits are, and everything like that. And as Mercury conjoins the Sun right here, this is, getting a fresh, clear understanding of what needs to be done and what needs to be addressed in this area. So then at the end of the month, on May 30th, we're going to have Mercury oppose Jupiter, where Jupiter is now in your 12th house of the subconscious, of repressed and unacknowledged parts of yourself. It's a blinding house that we don't always see, and while Jupiter's right there wanting to expand this area and bring a lot of faith and hope and, idealism, Mercury in your 6th house, where it's applying it practically on an everyday level, is kind of looking at this and going, what is the dream situation that you have in your head, and what is it going to take on a mercurial level, like your day-to-day activities, writing things down, getting in the habits. On that level, what is it going to look like to implement those beliefs and to implement that idealism and to really create that in your world? And that's going to be really important this month. And by the time we get to the end of this month on May 31st, we're going to have Venus trine Saturn. And Saturn's in your 1st house, it's retrograde, it's been tearing you guys apart. But Venus is still now in your 5th house in Taurus, giving a trine to Saturn. This is a lot of with Saturn being retrograde in your 1st house, you're facing the obstacles and the challenges that you need to. You're taking on more personal responsibility. Venus in Taurus is like saying yes to that. Venus is going, yes, I really like that, and this is good for you, and I'm going to make this an enjoyable experience for you. And that's what I got for you guys. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching and liking, commenting, and sharing and subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys, and I'll be seeing you next month.